As you know, this is Pathways Learning Center to jumpstart new members. I really want to start with our mission and a little bit of our story. First and foremost, we could almost start and stop the recording here, which is helping Toastmasters members one at a time. If there's one thing that guides every decision on this Pathways Learning Center, and I would say actually in our district under our excellent leadership, that's what it is. We often have these numbers we talk about, percentage this, percentage that, but in the end, it's really the members one at a time. That's one thing that I want to make really clear, and I hope that you gain from this webinar. The Pathways Learning Center concept is this. What we figured out was not every Toastmaster learns precisely in the same way with Pathways and with Basecamp. As a matter of fact, with extensive surveys, interaction, presentations, within the past year and a half as a Pathways proponent serving on the team with all of my fellow proponents, what I gathered, and I think what many of us gathered, is that there are really two folks, maybe three, that sort of get left out of the equation sometimes if we're not careful. And that specifically is perhaps the traditional background Toastmasters. In other words, the ones that are more familiar with the competent communication or competent leadership manuals. And this Pathways Basecamp thing is still a little confusing or maybe not desirable. It's almost like, I prefer this, not sure what to do with this new situation. Secondly, the folks that use agendas in non-Toastmasters tools, for example, the common ones that many of us know about are the FreeToastHost club websites or EasySpeak. But then there are some that don't fit into that equation. So we really feel like there's an opportunity to help them. And we're particularly going to be helping both of those folks tonight. And the third one is really just an individual that does not prefer the online Basecamp user interface. The solutions we're going to offer are geared toward those folks. The one thing I will say is I'm not affiliated with Toastmasters International at all, so I have no control whatsoever on controlling Basecamp or the user interface. But what keeps me up 24/7, it seems, and I think we've come up with some good solutions, is in fact what we can do about it, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that. Tonight is specifically about helping new members, as promised in the title. As well, we're going to talk to those club leaders that are in fact helping the new members. And we tie this whole concept in with the Pathways Learning Center. That's what PLC stands for. It's just shorter in the slide. So it's all this material, as a matter of fact, we're going to be going through is the Pathways Learning Center. And what we're really going for in this is a one-stop education resource. In previous webinars, we've had excellent commentary, but it's been kind of like, okay, go to this website, type in this password, Google it, things like those bits of advice, which can be very good, but also a little confusing. What we try to do is offer the one stop for education. The event format tonight, first of all, I just want to go into this, especially if it's for new members or those wanting to reinvigorate their reasons for being in Pathways. So the value proposition. Secondly, specific tools for new members and tools for those club leaders helping new members. And then at the end, we are going to have an interactive question and answer session. Let's start with the Pathways value proposition. Why study in Pathways? Well, let's talk briefly about what, in fact, the curriculum is based upon, the Pathways curriculum. There are 5 core competencies. They are public speaking, interpersonal communication, strategic leadership, management, and all of those areas of study lead to confidence. There are 11 paths. I'm not going to take the time to read these, but I'm just going to let you quickly look at these on the slides. So that's kind of the basic layout. But let's flesh this out. What better way to do that than to just share a personal value or experience, just as I'm sure there are many stories from all of you. So my personal value from Pathways, first and foremost, for me personally, is the Toastmasters learning model. Secondly, public speaking. I've gained tremendously in this area. Communication, leadership. What do I mean by the Toastmasters learning model? I was fascinated studying the High Performance Leadership Project some time ago to read that, in fact, it is do, learn, teach. Now, that sounds a little counterintuitive if you really think about it at first, because, well, how can you do it before you learn it? I've often thought of it anyways. You might read about it, you might study it, and then it's like, okay, well, I guess I can do that. And then if I'm so inclined, I might decide to teach it. But Toastmaster switches that around. And I think what the secret for this is, as far as I understand, is in fact, it's about building a person's context. So in other words, when you start to do it, before really getting into all the details, you've already determined that this is actually important to you and worthy of study. That's how this customized curriculum works. So you start to do it, you start building that context, and as a result of doing, another way to say it is learn by doing. And then with the community aspect in Toastmasters, that's where the teach comes from. And I'll tell you, safe place to fail. This is absolutely incredible. If I could just say one thing, it's in Toastmasters, how are you supposed to learn these lessons in public speaking, leadership, heck, life lessons, unless you take chances? I'll tell you, I don't know about the rest of you, but I certainly have pushed this envelope where you're really trying something you're passionate about and it doesn't go well. But thankfully, you're not going to get fired. It's not your job that you're going to get fired from, or other situations. We're all in the same boat in that regard. And I love that about Toastmasters. Public speaking. We learn to speak clearly, confidently. After 11 years, every single week. What an amazing opportunity, where there are so many other organizations where you pay thousands of dollars for just a few sessions. And we do it for much less money and in a community environment. We learn to develop gestures, stage movement, for example. I might decide to delineate certain points on the camera here. I might go this point, then this point, then this point. That is one gesture. Another thing that I can do in terms of stage movement on the camera can be, if I really want you to know that I'm sincere about something, I might come forward like this. Or if I want to now back off in the intensity and just let you think about it, I might back off and just give you that space. Connecting with your audience. Probably the number one lesson that I've learned through the years, and I'm still learning, is I've been pretty good at deciding what I'm passionate about. But the other part that you gain from experience only, I think, is be sure that it's appropriate for your audience. I have been known to give deep philosophical presentations. It happens to be an interest of mine, philosophy. And I have definitely been in that position when I've given these presentations, I've laid out my case, and then my fellow members have given applause, but I have to question if they really totally understood or even necessarily cared about the detail that I decided to go into. But in that situation, I had a chance to learn. And then through the years, I've learned to match not only what I'm passionate about for myself, but match that up with an audience that actually would have an interest in that. Communication, understanding effective and supportive feedback. And I think this is really enhanced through what we do in evaluation in Toastmasters. There's a reason that we have two of these and one of these. What I try to tell myself is, when in doubt, listen. Learning about different communication and leadership styles. There are specific pathways projects for this, and I have gained quite a bit in thinking about this, and it really is true. And I think it ties back into the listening. When we can be better listeners, we can understand someone else's style so that we can productively and purposely move forward in the same direction. Leadership, if you are interested in collaborative leadership, you're going to find it in Toastmasters. That's what we're all about. Leading with vision, mission, and purpose. I'll share this a little further. This year, it's my first year as a division director. I was used to being able to sort of control an outcome a little bit more. Even as an area director, you can, if you're passionate about something, you can just kind of do it, you know, as long as you could get your clubs to invite you to come by. What I find as a division director is that you also need to understand what the vision, mission, and purpose is of, in fact, your members, of your team, your area directors. Again, there's so much more to learn. It's so interesting to me that in Toastmasters, the higher up in rank, if you will, you get, the least amount of control comes about, but yet a little higher responsibility. So your communication and leadership has to kind of raise with that. I find that so interesting, and maybe some of you can relate to that. And then, of course, you get a chance to plan fun, organized, and meaningful events just like this one. Pathways includes, as we mentioned, those 11 paths. Those are sort of the curricula of the main curriculum of Pathways. There are 5 levels within each path. It's a combination of required and elective projects. And again, this is an overview. We could probably spend an entire webinar on the specifics, but I'm just planting a seed for your interest on this. And the point is, just like with that contextual learning model, with that do, learn, teach model, it's personalized and versatile to your interests. And here's just a little quick glimpse into one of my favorites, and it just happened to be my first path, which is leadership development. And this is how it's laid out for all 5 levels. New member tools, that's why you're here, and that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to show you right now about the Navigator. You may know about that. It's a PDF you can access. We're going to talk about that brand new member that hasn't even created or authenticated a Toastmasters.org account. And we're going to talk about that first path selection. All of this, just like every tool we're going to cover tonight, is at the Pathways Learning Center. We're going to take a look right now at that precisely. So if you haven't been to the Pathways Learning Center yet, this is how you get there. This is our district homepage, District 7 homepage, and it is at d7toastmasters.org. Then you can see these headings here. You would look for Pathways, and the first one is just called Pathways Learning Center. So we click on that. It loads its own page here. And here it is, Pathways Learning Centers. Hopefully some of you have been here before. It might be the first time for others. But you can see Pathways resources to help fellow Toastmasters with education and related member needs. And here's our motto that we live by, we stand by: helping Toastmasters members one at a time. So let's scroll this down first. This is the Navigator. I just briefly want to click on this. The way that I have the most recent version of this document is you would need to be logged in. I think Denise was asking about that. And here's how you access it. We just click on the appropriate language. And I'm just going to briefly show you the table of contents. For this is for that new member, and this will be recorded. As a matter of fact, if I stay up late at night, you might even get access to the recording tonight, the video. So here it is. What it does is it goes through the basics of the meeting structure, who's doing what as far as meeting roles, and other Toastmasters branded information. It's a wonderful, wonderful PDF to take a look at. And then we also mentioned the other tools that we wanted to get into. And this is from my little PDF that I created. Great. And this is the table of contents. You may or may not have seen this yet, but this is where you would click to, in fact, learn how to create and authenticate your Toastmasters.org account. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want this to sort of be a reminder to you to come back. But here it is. You click on this. We're going to just briefly touch on it. So it's literally from your welcome email from Toastmasters International. You just paid your international dues and your club dues. So there it is. It shows you a little picture of what hopefully it looks like on your computer. And then step by step, going to Toastmasters.org, clicking log in. And it really, really is step by step on this. And if we want to get specific on this, we can certainly do that in the Q&A. The other promise that I made in addition to that is selecting a path for the first time. You can see there's a chapter on this. So you would click on this right here. And again, it really is step by step on this. You'll see once you have created your account, this will be available. You would want to do this in order, do the first step and then do this one. And it just, again, to give you a little bit of an overview here, you'll see the new page, where and how to log in. Clicking on choosing your path. Oh, there's something that I have to put in here. Toastmasters, we like to give credit where credit is due. And you might notice on the book here that someone named JHP from 2018 created a Pathways Fast Start cheat sheet. That was like 8 pages. And then, of course, this became 28 pages. But I was definitely borrowing some of his material. And someone you might know named Ellen Eno, who is a DTM, we borrowed some of her slide material from a Pathways Learning Lab that she did on October 17th. So a lot of fun there. And Lorri, do we have anything in chat we have to deal with right now?
Mr. Toastmaster, we have some comments that we could, no questions, but Denise, would you like to talk about your comment?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm just appreciative that one of the things that I forget is what it looks like from the new member perspective. And so having those screenshots on, like, I can never remember what are the notifications and what they look like. And so I love that. And I just wanted to express it in the chat.
Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate that. Excellent. And we'll have time to get into the rest of the chat in a moment. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't losing anybody. Thank you. That is absolutely wonderful. Great. The other thing I really want to let you know, because we did make that promise, again, to help that individual that was more of the competent communication and competent leadership manuals familiarity, as well as someone else like that does the agendas on a different tool other than Toastmasters. The way that we integrate both of those solutions, particularly for that traditional background, is that we bring it down to 3 online Basecamp activities being required and no others. This, oh my God, I can't even tell you how exciting this flash was. This was collaborating with, I'm going to embarrass a member who's not here, but his name is Daniel Brewer. We had an incredible conversation where it just hit me like a ton of bricks that, in fact, how can we help these folks that have this other background and are, not preferring or not totally understanding the online Basecamp thing? He and I were talking, all of a sudden it became evident that it was in fact PDFs that could be the bridge for this. And those 3 activities that just hit me like a ton of bricks. 1, completing a project. We're going to show you in a practice document right now, which is actually at the Pathways Learning Center. Secondly, we're going to show you how to print the project. That's what enables this approach. That's going to be on the practice document. And then finally, completing a level. I'm going to come back to the PDF. I think that's the easiest way to do it, to show you that. And again, this is, in fact, at the Pathways Learning Center. So we are, buckle your seatbelts. We're going back and forth to the Pathways Learning Center, but it's a fun ride, and I hope you're enjoying this ride. Great. So here we are. We are closer to the top of the page. And if we scroll down just a little bit more, you know, for those of you that like videos, I created a video. If you want to watch that, it's just called Completing a Project. It's a little bit longer than the one that Toastmasters International did. They did one for like 2 minutes. Another thing I want to make explicit, because this came up from the last one, in order to, in fact, play a video in this carousel format, it's actually a two-step process. So say, for example, you're like, you know, I love Dave, but I just want to see a 2-minute video instead of a 10-minute video. So you have to select it from the carousel. Then once you select it from the carousel, you can then press play.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
And you'll hear from Melissa, who does it in 2 minutes. So that's how you do that. But really what I wanted to show you was the practice sample. This is incredibly fun, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. So we would actually click on this, in fact, to practice. You select your language, and you're going to get a chance to now access a project. Talk about a safe place to fail. This literally will not affect your Basecamp at all. This is a totally separate situation. Now, some of you that have done the icebreaker before, we're going to certainly recognize this. But if you are a club leader, you want to help a new member, please tell them about this or refer the video. Again, it should be done tonight if I can do it without falling asleep at my computer, with my old computer. But here we are. Of course, as you know, you could press begin and keep going through all of that, or you can use the down arrow, or as I affectionately call it, the fast access toolbar, because you can quickly access any tool within the project window. You can get anywhere, anytime within the project window. But what I want to show you right here, all the magic happens at this tab. And in Toastmasters, let's face it, is evaluation important? I'm guessing many of you say yes. Well, it's probably fitting that, in fact, this is the most important thing we can click on in terms of the education. So here we go. We click on your evaluation. As you can see, we can click on many of these. We're going to click on your evaluation. This is the same for every single project that you'll do in every single path. And here it is. Now, if you want to print out your project like we were talking about, this is the thing that enables this whole approach, where you only need those 3 activities: completing a project, printing out your project, and completing a level. This is what enables this. So every time in every project, you're going to see this available as print my project at the your evaluation tab that you just clicked on. So here we go, print my project. And this, all 23 pages, is precisely what you'd be doing in Basecamp. If you are someone that's kind of like, I'm not so crazy about the Basecamp user interface, this is how you do it. You could simply do it at the Pathways Learning Center, which of course I'd be honored, or you can print it to your computer. It works either way. I would love it if you would just spend forever and ever at the Pathways Learning Center. Matter of fact, I do that. I hardly ever go to my hard drive anymore. I just go to the Pathways Learning Center. And I will say this, the beauty of this is not only is your entire education process in here, with the exception of a few videos. There are some videos that if you really want to watch the videos, that you would need to go into online Basecamp. But if you're not wanting to be in there, there's plenty here that you can do. And I'm just going to go, I just happen to know that the evaluation form is on page 14. So here we are on page 14. Let's say if you go to your meeting, you're going to be given your icebreaker. Many of you probably know that level 1, this is the first speech that we will often give. What you can do is, in fact, print out this PDF. Page 14 and 15 is what you would give to your evaluator. And that removes the whole aspect where you need to figure out what to print on, what to save. All you do is you print it out, give it to your evaluator. They fill it out in pencil or pen. If you're meeting online, what they would need to do, and you would need to do, is sort of scan these back and forth. But the thing that I really want to make people aware of. Like, why is this relevant? Because a lot of folks are actually familiar with how to print PDFs. It's the online Basecamp that they would have issues with. So we're pretty excited about that. I've had good feedback on this so far. The other thing I want to bring us back to this resource we were talking about is how, in fact, to complete this project. So again, the 3 activities. We just printed the project in this thought experiment, if you will. And the way that you, in fact, complete your project is you click on Assess Your Skills After. I'm going to show you exactly how this looks, because it is duplicated very well. But I should say, it's not going to affect your Basecamp at all. So you would fill out the Assess Your Skills After. I feel calm. You keep filling this out, and then you'll notice this sort of back and next. You got to keep clicking next. We're just going to fly through this just so you can see it. And then once you've filled it out to where you want it filled out, you then click Submit. And by the way, this entire process is in that PDF that we've been talking about. So you can see there's sort of a before. I never took the time to do before, but if one did, as a matter of fact, you actually don't need to do the before to complete your level. But it's good to go through them all, of course, if you can, if you have time. So you say, great. And the way that you finally have to do this is you have to click this right arrow one more time. Chevron, sometimes people call it. And then you see, congratulations, you've now completed this project. So that is just really good to know about. Those are the 2 brief activities. And again, it is very explicit in the PDF, which we're about to show you right now. What I want to now do is bring you to completing the level as promised. And by the way, there is a video that you can do the level, but I thought while we're here, let's do it together. So you can see we've already accessed create our authenticate the Toastmasters.org account. We've done the selecting of the path. We've completed the icebreaker. And now we want to know, this is the 3rd and final skill needed as far as Basecamp for a member, completing level 1. And again, it's just going to be a little hint. As I believe it was Denise talked about, you're going to get a chance to look at these screenshots and see how this all works. And please hand this to another member. This is certainly a labor of love, and I love getting that feedback that it's helpful. So far, I've had some good feedback. I've had some feedback, hey, could you clarify this? I love that kind of feedback too. So here it is. Again, we're not going to go through it all right now, but it's quite explicit with, in fact, how the process goes. Trucking right along. Now, what about those club leaders that are helping members? The ways we need to know this is happening. First of all, we do need to have Basecamp managers that can process education awards. That's what allows that member to only need to do those 3 things. We're going to briefly touch on that. The Basecamp managers are the Vice President Education as the main manager, if you will. And then he has some team members that he can delegate to, depending on your club, he or she, of course. President and Secretary, that's the same for every club. Next, there's only 3 online Basecamp activities that are actually required, even as a Basecamp manager, at the basic level, I should say. And that is logging in as a Basecamp manager. Secondly, pending requests and processing education awards. That's beyond the scope of what we need to do, but I'm going to show you precisely where that is in a moment. Finally, this is super fun. Meeting in a box is kind of what I call it. It's a spreadsheet. This is for that club that is like, I'm just not getting the whole FreeToastHost or Easy Speak thing. This is a solution for that, or you may just want to check it out for fun anyway. This was donated by a member in the district. We're going to talk about that in a second. as well the importance of mentoring within your club. We're just going to offer a little brief commentary on that as well. There's a one-sheet PDF that we created. And again, this is at the Pathways Learning Center. Are you noticing a theme? All of this, in fact, is at the Pathways Learning Center. And this is what I'm encouraging you to do. So here we are, the Pathways Learning Center. And you might notice that it sort of has a flow to it, right? It starts at the beginner level, comes into the intermediate, and then gets a little bit more advanced for those that are interested in that. And that's precisely what is happening, as a matter of fact. So here we are at the intermediate level. Presumably the club leaders have that intermediate background a little bit. And by the way, there's a video on printing a project. Please, take a look. There's a lot of wonderful things here to take a peek at. But in fact, what I'm going to recommend for those Basecamp managers is please do watch this video. These are some of the topics. I do go a little bit beyond what I just said, but it is designed, in fact, for that basic level Basecamp manager with really only those 3 tasks required to be online. And there's the video. Basecamp managers, VPE, president, secretary. We tried to make it in big letters so it was obvious that, as a matter of fact, that those are the 3 Basecamp managers. It's about 14.5 minutes long. If you ever want to get a cup of coffee, take a look at it. It could be a good resource for you. But anyway, we were also talking about that meeting in a box. I'm thinking about changing this on the website to say meeting in a box, but right now it's a little more technical. Meeting agenda and contact management template spreadsheet. So let's take a look at that. So we click to download. Now, you would probably save this to your hard drive, but for the sake of what we're doing, I'm just going to simply open it so it's on the screen. And presumably, you would then upload this to your Google Sheets, where all of your members would be sharing whatever data you felt was appropriate. And this is what it would look like. We are at the agenda. So we go back to the beginning. This is going to look very familiar for those of you that have done meetings at this point. This is, again, more for those club leaders. It's sort of a generic setup, and really what it is, it's set up for beginning with the prepared presentations, going to table topics, ending with evaluation. And I'll let you play with that a little bit. Of course, you would fill in as needed. This is sort of the agenda description. Meeting sign up. We're going to come back here in a second because there's something super cool that I want to show you about that. The email list. This is interesting in that you will be typing the name and the email. This is your contact management, if you will. It's very basic, but it's here. And you can, of course, put the alternative email and phone number. But as you type in the name and email, it automatically comes into this sort of formula if you're used to using spreadsheets. And you can then copy and put this into your email client to email your club on whatever activities you would like to. Grammarian, if you want to log it specifically, you can use this form for that. And as promised, I want to show you something super, super cool that I just couldn't even believe it when I saw this, which is this meeting sign up. And again, please, take a look at this on your own, but you would simply be filling in the names accordingly for the various roles. Kate Arnold, who's a DTM, is the one that donated this to me, and I just kind of altered it to make it of more general use. So it wasn't so particular to her club or someone else's club, but it's more general use. I think she did a great job. She also set it up on these links. So like Toastmaster, if you click on that link, you're actually going to be at toastmasters.org reading about the role of the Toastmaster and other things like that. Just have a little fun with it. And there are some instructions, but this is super cool. This is just evaluation resource forms. You don't even have to be logged in for this. It was so cool. I had to put it on the Pathways Learning Center website, actually. So I'm going to show you that, but it's literally just this link. If you had your meeting in a box spreadsheet open, then you would simply click on that link. So now I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like. So this is what I called it, all pathways evaluations forms search page. So you click to search. And I couldn't even believe this when I saw it. Oh my God, you don't have to log in. It's incredible. So as long as you know the name of your evaluation, like tonight, I'm doing question and answer. We just sort of decided that a little bit, very close to this session, we'll put it that way. But let's see if it's in here. I'm just literally going to test it on the fly. I'm going to type in question because I don't actually remember the full name at the moment. Let's see if it comes up. And there it is. So we would literally click on this. You can see right there, you view the form, or maybe it's icebreaker. Whatever form, in fact, that you want to access, it's right here. Not every form is fillable, quote unquote, like if you're that technical person that likes to do the online things. But if it's available as a fillable PDF, then it will be the same here. But again, I just really want to encourage those folks that are really wanting to minimize their online activities, you know, particularly with the Basecamp. You can always print it out and scan it like we talked about earlier. Highly recommended. The other aspect we talked about was mentoring. I was rather vexed when I was putting this outline together, and I was like, okay, new members, oh my God, we don't have a one sheet for mentoring in our clubs in the Pathways Mentor Program. That was actually a question. I was studying a previous District 7 webinar, and it became clear that there was none. So we created one. This is what I want to show you. It's just called Mentoring in Your Club, Getting Started, and some other things. I'm just going to show you. Here it is. What it does, it tells us, first of all, for informal mentoring, there are no requirements at all to begin informally mentoring a new member or protege. Ideally, the mentor helping would have the skills and experience needed to actually give assistance to that member. For example, if mentoring a brand new Toastmaster, understanding something about pathways and the meeting roles would be recommended. However, I also cannot speak highly enough for those joining the Pathways Mentor Program. I've done quite a bit of that, really enjoyed it. I was looking through the recent education achievements, and I was very pleased to see someone on this call, I don't remember who it was, but I saw that they had completed the Pathways Mentor Program. Maybe we can even, in the commentary, hear from them if they know who they are. I just don't remember the name. But this just gives a little bit of a description on fact on what that is. But let me preface by saying this. A lot of people are under the impression that it's like vast requirements just to get started. It actually is not. Upon level 2 completion in any path, you can join the program. And there are 2 quick projects, you can read about that here, that you sort of do on your own. You can have it done within a day or 2. And then you can start mentoring an actual member. And it's really not that big of a commitment. All it is you commit to helping a member with one Pathways project. You sign it off, you're done. That's it. Now, there is one that's further along the way, which is an interactive, and that's a 6-month commitment, but it doesn't start there. I just would encourage you to read this PDF, check it out. And if you're really interested, I must admit on page 2, this I consider as an addendum. I still consider it a one sheet because this is only the more information. But there are 2 videos. One is sort of a technical breakdown of the entire program that I did. You would click on that YouTube link. And then if you wanted to get a little bit more information about sort of the heart and soul and spirit of it, Dr. Gwendolyn Avington did a presentation here that you could click on that as well, depending on your interest. We are getting into the home stretch. I just need to tell you one more bonus. And that is, in fact, this came up the last one. I don't know if this person's here. She was from Australia. She was a great participant last time. And what came up in the Q&A was she was really advocating for some kind of speech tracking. And we listened we heard and we followed through. So we actually now have this. It is, in fact, at the Pathways Learning Center. And a lot of work went into this. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So as we take a look, this was contributed by David Shehorn as a DTM. His design, now he's got a very serious engineering mind or something. It was great. So it's his design, and then I just kind of simplified it so that someone like me, or that it's a little simpler, so we can really understand it and utilize it. But it's wonderful, and I need to make that a separate share. This is what it looks like. So perhaps I can just briefly show you the description here. Please note that there are drop-down lists for the path, level, and project name selections. So let's just briefly show you. Naturally, this is sort of your log. You're doing speeches all around the place. The date, speech title, that's sort of your information, but the thing that's universal is path. So you can see there's a down arrow there. And then these are the abbreviations for all the paths. Level, there's only so many of these guys, so you naturally click on that for the available levels. Project names, David, I'm sure, spent a lot of time on this, but every single one is in there, and we're really grateful for his help with this. So now, here's this one I put in red so that you know this is not for editing. This is sort of where we draw information from. But for someone that wants to know what do these abbreviations mean, it's sort of translated right here so you know what that means. Here's where we keep all the project names. Again, there's nothing to edit in here. Now, say you want to do multiple paths or even just get started with one path. This is set up such that you can do that. You'd put your name in here, your path name there. There are some comments, and again, there's more description at the bottom here. If you see the little red dot at the top, then you will get a chance to see a comment come up. Just shows that, in fact, this R and E, the R means required, E means elective. This get a little bit more technical. This is, maybe for that intermediate or even in advanced possibly that's, wanting to log their speeches. Let's see, what else can we say? Project name, these have down arrows, as I'm sure you can imagine. And you kind of get a chance to learn, oh yes, there are 3 required projects in level 2, 1 required, 2 electives in level 3. You can kind of play with that. Presentation title, naturally that would be yours. Completion date, that'd be yours. Project name, this is a little interesting. Some of these, very few, actually have 2 presentations in the project. So in that case, you would do the down arrow and select that. To quickly recap, we talked about sort of the value proposition for Pathways. We talked about those tools for new members, as well as for the club leaders helping the new members. I quickly just want to put out some acknowledgement in Toastmasters. We don't get paid in Toastmasters, but the way we do pay each other is, giving opportunities, giving praise, and there's no way I can get it all in, but I just want to say, for example, this TLI, many of you are here from TLI, and I just want to say thank you on a personal level to the team, to Lorri leading this as the PQD, Bob Hall, DTM, as the TLI coordinator, and Dr. Gwendolyn Abington as the TLI elective curriculum coordinator. I know it's silent right now, but I just want to offer a round of applause for the leadership team. And then further, the key staff. Ellen always gets mad at me when I give her credit, but I guess I have to for the moment. She was our Zoom master and leader. I can't even believe how much she was taken care of. I was a presenter and there were emails going back and forth 24/7, and I'm just one person. It's incredible. All the Zoom masters team and the room hosts, it's absolutely fabulous. And then, of course, the presenters. Finally, I also want to acknowledge the Pathways, District 7 Pathways team. Lorri is our Pathways Proponents Committee chair. Dr. Gwendolyn Davington is the immediate past Pathways Proponents Committee chair and currently advising. She puts up with me in some late night conversations that I have questions about. We have an entire team, all of our division directors, every single one of them is a Pathways proponent. So if you have questions, please reach out to them as well. There are so many untapped resources that we're developing this year. And then finally, all the fellow Pathways proponents from last year. The Pathways resources contribution, as we mentioned, let's be explicit. David Shehorn was the one that contributed that speech tracking log, his design. Kate Arnold was helping us with that meeting in a box. And then finally, Daniel Brewer, we didn't get to it today, but at the top of the page, he did an icebreaker PDF that you could take a look at as well. We're really thankful. And also Daniel's conversation with me was very helpful in really kind of designing this whole thing. It was that conversation that sort of made it really clear that these PDFs could help. If other things that are going on in Pathways, really briefly, the District 7 Train the Trainer. It is really a movement that we're trying to put together. If you like the way that I teach Pathways or you've seen others, I would help you with that if you wanted to collaborate in our district presentations or just with your club. I have a ton of slides. I'd love to share that with anybody that's interested. It's very informal. It's literally a matter of contact me and let's talk. But that's what it is. It's a Pathways Train the Trainer. Of course, please be aware of this new District 7 Pathways Learning Center page. It's less than 30 days old. Please spread the good word. There is a contact section at the bottom of the page. If you have any questions about the website, Pathways, other things like that, please use it. That's what it's there for. The upcoming sessions are always on Wednesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. The next one coming up is on January 19th. I'm just going to fly through this a little bit. The recording will be there. You'll be able to study that, but that's what we need to know. It's Wednesday, January 19th, 7 to 8 p.m. is the next one. Thank you so much for attending, your contribution. In Toastmasters, there's always a way. When I see you, it gives me faith that, in fact, there is always a way. And it's my pleasure to invite you, and I know you're already doing this, to join in our mission of helping Toastmasters members one at a time. At this point, I return control of the meeting for Q&A over to our chat master, Lorri Andersen.
Thank you, Dave. Let's give Dave a great big hand and round of applause. Thank you so much, Dave, for your time and effort. There are some questions and comments in the chat box. So let me go ahead and get started with that. Leaving where we left off, Catherine is asking, is there a way to print the project without the photos?
Let's see, without the photos. Can we put Catherine on the line for a second?
Yes. So I was wanting to print out the project, but there are photos on every single page, and I don't need the photos. I don't need to look at the people. I just need the information. So is there a way to print just the text without the photos?
You know, that's a brilliant question. I have never been asked that before. Not that I know of, but I know in certain user interface environments that you can do that. But the one thing, if you're wanting to save ink, which I'm always trying to do, what you could do is print it out grayscale or something like that, so it came out quickly. And if you have a decent printer, you'll still be able to read the text. But I'm not aware of a way to separate those two. That's a great question. I've never had that question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great, Lorri.
All right, thank you, Dave and Catherine. Penny says this meeting in a box is brilliant, so useful with all the links without logging in.
Awesome. I couldn't believe it. I almost fell off my chair. I emailed Kate immediately. Was like, what is this? And I was like, can I put this on the website? And she said, just do it. Yes.
Great, thank you. Well, Joan has a question that she would probably like to follow up with you about after I read this.
Okay.
She needs a little more instruction on how you get into the intermediate part of the Pathways Learning Center.
Okay. Let's see, Joan, do you mind talking, or should we do that a different time? Or
I guess it's easier to talk without being muted.
oh yes. Do you want me to show you how to get to that intermediate section?
That'd be great. Thank you. Yeah, I really got lost.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the D7 Pathways Learning Center.
Okay.
So let's kind of get you there right from the beginning. So let's see if I can do a control home to get at the top of the page. Hey, I can. Okay, good. So we just arrived, and you can hopefully see it's d7toastmasters.org/pathways learning center. And I'll put that in the chat, or maybe Jim, if you wouldn't mind doing that.
I've got that. That's fine.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
literally, I'm sorry, Joan, I think I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, great. So I'm going to just literally scroll down the page. And the way that I kind of envision this flow is it starts from the beginning, then it becomes more intermediate and becomes more advanced as you go. So I'm literally just scrolling down the page until I see intermediate pathways
Oh,
resources.
duh.
And that's all it is. It's all on the same page, but you would just scroll down. Does that answer your question, Joan?
Absolutely perfect. Yes, I'm sorry. I just, yeah, I feel kind of like a goober, but
Oh,
okay.
not at all. This is how we learn, is by asking questions. So I very much appreciate that question.
Actually,
Thanks
I
so
don't
much, Jim.
remember. I don't remember seeing it either. So it was.
Yay!
And
All right.
Jim wants to thank you for pulling all this together. He's been sending the link out, and he's telling people to refer to the Pathways Learning Center.
That is amazing. Thank you, Jim, for your support. And Jim just has me amazed all the time. There's always some new stat or new technical way to do something in our district that I just never had any idea. And it's such a pleasure having Jim on our district trio team. And actually, can we offer just a quick round of applause to our trio? We have Jim as Club Growth Director, Lorri as Program Quality Director, Eldred is not here, but he's our district director. Can we offer that hand?
And clap for Jim and Eldred. Yes, definitely.
And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say immediate past district
Yeah.
director, PJ Kleffner.
Right, exactly. Thank you. So Penny has kind of a question and a comment.
Yes.
She says the speech tracker is for individual members, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I wish something like this existed for VPE to access for all club members. If it exists somewhere on Toastmasters International, I haven't found it yet.
Well, this did not exist prior to 24 hours ago. So that could also soon exist. I mean, I know there are different ones out there, but the question is, would I in fact recommend it? My standards are rather high in terms of what I would in fact recommend. So I can't recommend anything yet, but I will take on that challenge to the best of my ability and our team of digital content providers. So thank you for that. Lorri or somebody, Jim, probably somebody will remind me to make sure that that happens. And I want to follow through with Penny before the next learning lab. That's my.
Well, I'm not sure. Excuse me. Sorry, Dave, didn't mean to interrupt. I'm not sure if David Friedman is how he's if he wants to
This is
offer being a.
actually, you don't have to go ahead and answer
Oh,
it. It's
okay.
this is an ongoing thing I'm trying to figure out about how to create a career as a public speaker, and that would literally take hours of discussion, which we don't have tonight. So go ahead and skip it.
Okay. Well,
What was the general topic? I'm
I-
sorry, I missed it. I'm just.
I commend you on that because.
Well,
it's
the
a
question
great
that
goal.
the question that I asked was, granted we don't get paid in Toastmasters, but how do we create public speaking careers in which we do get paid? And trust me, you don't have time for that right now. Anyway.
I concur, and I think it's a great idea. Thank you, David. Yes, you know what? I think it's important just to plant that seed to make sure we all know it's out there, and I think that's a great comment.
Okay, so would you like to go ahead and offer final comments?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer and Chat Master. First of all, could we offer one more hand to our excellent team? They make it look easy, but I know it's not. And that, in fact, is Lorri and Ellen. Thank you so much. And even though Jim's not official, he always sort of ends up on the team. So I have to extend that to Jim as well. Just absolutely fabulous. You've been an incredible audience, and I just am so honored that you are here. This is sort of a commitment in my heart. When I see you come up, it really feeds my soul. I see so much potential, and it's so exciting to see the growth that's taking place, the trust that you guys have as a result of coming. It's an honor, and we're all in it together, helping Toastmasters members one at a time. Over to you, Madam Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, everyone. It is 8:02, and I don't want to continue on with too many comments, but I just want to thank you, Dave, again for your Pathways Learning Center. I found this webinar, this learning lab, so easy to comprehend and grasp the information. This is very, synchronized, it's very step by step, and that's the way I think it really is laid out well. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. And fellow Toastmasters, I will go ahead and let you enjoy your evening. And thank you again for attending our learning lab.
Great.
We hope to see you next month.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.